Looking at evangelicalism's justice contradiction, we see a spiritual split within the movement. There are two personalities within evangelicalism, or what Joseph Evans describes as a double consciousness within whiteness. This is a white privileged version of the double consciousness that W.E.B. Du Bois spoke of within African Americans. And it explains why the current approach to multi-ethnic church development and racial reconciliation is not working to address systemic racism and racialized divisions in America. In the 1970s, African American evangelists such as Tom Skinner and John Perkins were received as prophetic voices of racial reconciliation within evangelicalism. At the same time, after Tom Skinner preached a message on racism and world evangelism at InterVarsity's Urbana Missions Conference in 1970, a significant segment of evangelical churches and organizations refused to have him preach or support his ministry. His divorce a few years after the 1970 message was used by some as the reason for many white evangelicals distancing themselves from him, but others point to the Urbana message as the real reason. In the 1980s, evangelical churches and parachurches began to bring on urban directors and outreach pastors to reach racially diverse neighborhoods and cities. It is within this commitment that my, Efrem's, life was touched as a teenager by ministries such as Park Avenue United Methodist Church, the Park Avenue Youth Leadership Foundation, Young Life, and Hospitality House. At the same time, the evangelical donors to these ministries threatened to stop financially supporting when staff of color, programs, or sermons came across as liberal in their eyes. In the 1990s, Promise Keepers came on the scene as a mega evangelistic rally for men, which also called men to racial reconciliation through African American pastors like Tony Evans and Raleigh Washington. At the same time, Raleigh Washington publicly denounced the Million Man March and its focus on inspiring and strengthening African American males. This was possibly motivated by the fear that supporting such a rally might have undermined his status within the evangelical movement. In the 2000s, books on the case for multiracial and multi-ethnic church development hit the shelves of Christian bookstores and were featured at pastors' conferences. Major evangelical conferences diversified their speaker rosters like never before. At the same time, after Reverend Michelle Higgins presented a prophetic critique on the state of evangelism, along with a proclamation that Black Lives Matter at Urbana 2015, some donors threatened to pull their financial support if InterVarsity did not distance some of her comments from the Black Lives Matter organization.